Brand new name for us since January. We were a media design group for 15 years. And we buy video. We buy linear TV, CTV, streaming, FAST channels, you name it, we buy it. Clients like ZipRecruiter, Tractor Supply Co., Grammarly. And I will let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. I also buy media. Steve Hartmann. I head up marketing for Experian's consumer business. We obviously sell credit monitoring products, credit products to consumers. We started off, kind of everybody knew us as the credit bureau, and as the consumer business kind of evolved and developed, and through media and through marketing, I think we've kind of created a brand in credit that is more suited for helping consumers in different situations to improve their credit situation, credit standing. So through our media and marketing, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that, and we're kind of evolving, and our products are evolving along with it.
I would say you've done a good job. Most of us know you very well. Just really quickly, how many people in the audience have done some sort of TV, CTV streaming? Very good. How many want to improve their credit? Okay. Great. Well, we're going to talk about kind of the landscape out there. Most people know it's changing, whether you're in the business or a viewer. You feel it even as a viewer. Things are changing. Both of us went to the upfronts, and when we had our pre-call, we felt it was kind of different this year. What we're talking about, CTV, cutting the cord, if you will, has been coming and growing through the pandemic. But now things are settling down a little bit, so we'd love to hear from you kind of what you think that lay of the land and what the landscape looks right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and we had such a great conversation because you are a really experienced TV buyer, planner, and that's kind of part of the roots of what Experian does and has done. And I think we were probably a little bit later to the game on CTV adoption for our media strategy, and I think the reason. It cost a lot more. It was, the measurement wasn't there. A lot of the hopes and dreams of a marketer, which is, it's just like buying digital. It just wasn't though. I think, as things have evolved, as platforms have evolved, and just the capabilities and measurement as well have evolved. I think, everyone's kind of gone that route and tried to figure out, what the right mix is, and that's why this is such a great conversation.
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the things that is settling into the world now is it's all TV, right? That gal sitting on a couch watching Real Housewives on Bravo isn't sitting there thinking, I'm watching Real Housewives on Bravo on my coax cable Spectrum, or I'm watching Real Housewives on Bravo on Hulu through my Roku. They just are watching TV. 89% of it is consumed on the TV on the wall now, right? And so at the end of the day, it's all TV, it's all video. The other interesting stat is 3% of the nation is linear only. Linear only does not even know what Netflix is or Hulu is. I don't know anyone like that. 24% of the nation is true cord cutters, right? We talk about cord cutters, my son will never be wired in. He's a cord cutter. 24%. We all think everyone's cutting the cord. 78% are like me. I'm probably paying $479 a month for my DirecTV and my Apple and my Paramount Plus and who knows what else, right? Cord stackers. Right? So we are all about, I don't care where I'm finding you as long as I'm finding you, right? So it's finding the right mix based on the goal. So talking about going back to our exact topic, striking the right balance, what's your balance now between CTV, we have CTV, we have streaming, we have fast channels, we have linear.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, for sure. When we talked about the upfronts, and I think the upfronts This year, I think going into it pre-writer's strike.
Or boring.
No, I think everybody was like, okay, it's going to be all about the content. It's going to be all about the streaming content and all the studios talking about which streaming platform they, working and what content is putting out on each streaming platform. But with the writer's strike, all of a sudden, content is, going away or getting smaller, and they're hoping that they still have it. So what leads the conversation in the upfronts all of a sudden is sports, news, reality TV, and those are all things that, where do you find it? You find it on linear, right? And so, talking about striking the balance, it's like when you think you're ready to go even deeper into streaming, you get pulled back into linear because that's what's happening right now. Streaming's not going to go away, linear's not going to go away for a while. But the way that we buy, we like to find tentpole, high-reach events, usually with live sports, NFL, college football bowl games, March Madness, the Olympics when they're happening. We get that huge reach there, and then we usually layer in cable and very performance-minded broadcasts to kind of support that, to kind of bring it all together, and then we kind of figure out what the OTT mix is. And I think we started probably at 10%, and then we went to 20%, and now we're closer to 30%. I think industry average is probably what, 20 to
about 30, I think.
Yeah. And so it's like we've got slowly inching there. Our products are actually getting younger. We're not the old bureau that just focuses on people that are trying to protect their identity or buy a house. It's like, how do you improve your credit score? How do I get started in credit? And so that audience is younger. They're more mobile first. So we knew that our audience was getting younger, so we knew OTT was also more important. Linear is getting older. But as we talked about earlier, everybody needs linear as well. And the reach, being able to reach 19 million people in a Sunday afternoon football game in September, I mean, there's nowhere else to do that.
The eyeball versus rate equation is just far too efficient and linear to ignore it. And so speaking, you keep bringing up football. Did you buy any football on Amazon?
I didn't. I didn't year one. I was they didn't really have anything tied to it. I think, in the new fronts this year, Amazon was kind of a winner. I think they won. The NFL gave them better games, which they needed, and then for the Thursday Night Football package. And then they started talking about the audience solutions and working in, their retail audience data into, incorporating that into the buy. And then I think one of the biggest innovations was they announced that you could have a creative split of your football placement. So you buy an ad in Thursday Night Football, and you can split it by, you can say, I want to run this ad to, 18 to 34, and I want to run this other ad, 35 plus, and, that's really interesting. It's interesting for us because we do have products for both demographics, and so, thinking through that, like, how do that's something we can take advantage of that we've never been able to do that before. And
So you are this year?
I am this year. Long story short.
Well, it's interesting though. Amazon and football is super interesting because that's the one thing, the news and the sports, that is linear, right? So with Amazon taking more and more football and people like you waiting and seeing and jumping in, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it was just interesting seeing how, you obviously YouTube this year, getting the Sunday, NFL Sunday ticket. We had a lunch conversation with a couple of people that, we talked about, like, God, how did they paid so much, like, they're never going to get that back.
What did they pay?
I forget now.
Remember that.
2.5? Anyway, just sports really led a lot of the conversations. I was at the Televisa Univision up front, and they're broadcasting the Super Bowls to their audience. So, even there, it was sports was was a big part. So, I mean, it is, that's not going away.
Yeah, so I think what the landscape looks like right now, it is, in COVID we were seeing charts where linear was just dive bombing and CTV was just growing, right? The charts look like this. And now it's leveling off a little bit. So the cord cutting's slowing down, but app downloads are still growing. So if there's a new morning show, season, Apple, people are going to download Apple, right? Yellowstone, when it gets pushed back again and again, people are Paramount Plus, there'll be more downloads. So we're still going to see those app downloads, but what people forget is app downloads don't mean cord cutting, right? And again, the cord stackers. So right now where we're at is there's everybody's moving around. We're in a content-driven world. So my job gets a little harder in linear to find the viewers because there's always something good on now. And people are jumping, even if they're on linear, they're jumping from their DirecTV over to into their DVR, over to Hulu, to YouTube, to TikTok and back. So figuring out zoning in and finding them is the tough part, which kind of leads us to attribution and data. And you kind of mentioned that you were a little bit slow starting on CTV because probably of attribution and data. And it's funny, programmatic digital agencies were like, oh, CTV, this is great. We're using data. We have the precision of digital now. And everyone thinks attribution is better. And it's interesting, as we're, 5, 6, 7 years into this, that attribution is a little bit harder.
It is. It is. No, it truly is. And there's not one source. Everybody's kind of piecing things together in different ways. We use iSpot's unified measurement, where we basically, instead of really knowing true performance, we look at incremental reach, right? Incremental reach above our linear buy. And if we're buying, Pluto or Hulu or whatever, I like to see, I want to see what the percentage of reach that I'm getting above my linear buy. And I think that for me, on top of like an MMM and some other, tactics, it's not an exact science, obviously, but you kind of have to figure out, what you feel is a win for you, and what's a good gauge of efficiency, and go that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. With, again, 78% being a cord stacker, you can really hit people with a lot of frequency if they're jumping from linear to streaming. And so with iSpot, are you able to get a read that you hit, you got Stacy Durand 4 times on linear and 7 times on Paramount Plus, and be able to reduce that frequency on one or the other or both?
Essentially, that's the goal. I think it's harder on connected, but yeah, that's what we're trying to get to for sure. And I think also like the targeting capabilities. I think you're reaching the right audience. Oftentimes with linear you don't. You can buy addressable. You can buy audiences, but it's just a little bit harder there. And with CTV, at least, like, okay, I'm honed in on my audience, at least I got that, I don't know if it's performing maybe exactly right, but I know they're hitting the right people.
Right, so the expense, so if CTV is like a 20 to 24 CPM, higher, you have the wrong agency.
Oh.
20 to $35 CPM, let's say. So you're paying for data, right? You're paying for data to reach that individual. And then linear is a $2 to $10 CPM, give or take. Right now, we're in a supply and demand business. There's a lot more supply than demand right now. So
I think there's also there's the freemium AVOD, right? And that's what brings it up, right? So I think Netflix did a really good job of this. They thought of the consumer and the consumer viewing experience more than the ad revenue, right? They have, they serve 4 minutes of ads an hour, whereas the fast platforms serve 22 minutes an hour. So you get your frequency pretty quick there. But you also get you find those you find the platforms you're paying a big number to reach them, but at least your ad experience is a little bit better, and so your ad engagement can be better, and so far just looking at some of the stats that we've seen, even like through EDO and some other platforms, like ad engagement is much higher on these on like a premium. So you can almost think of the Netflix and the Disney Plus, Hulu. Almost think of that as like live sports, right? Live sports, your hope is people are sitting there, they're watching their game, they're watching their teams, and they're sticking to the TV even during the commercial breaks because they don't want to miss the next play. With some of these, I guess better content plays, higher quality content plays. I feel like it's kind of the same. People are sitting there waiting, and they're not flipping the channel because they're on that platform. So I think it's an interesting way to think about it.
Right. So that premium you're paying for data, you find that you do need it especially to get that younger demo.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're paying the premium, but knowing. If you're only looking for someone 18 to 24, like you can't be on linear, right? You can't just be on linear.
Well, so that brings up YouTube. What do you do with YouTube? And it's so funny. I just got asked this last night. Has anyone really figured out YouTube yet? And to me, it depends on what your goal is, but there's still a mystery there. Do you buy a lot of YouTube, and what's your goal and outcome when you do?
We do. We buy a lot of YouTube, and it's been interesting to see in the last year, the percentage of CTV that our YouTube buy went from probably 30% CTV to like 80% more recently. And that to me it just shows the power of CTV, but it also shows where YouTube's going, and that's what YouTube always wanted, right? They wanted to be in the living room, like that was like the goal, and no one really thought they were going to get there this way.
It just goes back to it's all TV now.
Right.
We tried so hard not to use the word TV for a while because that made us old and old school, and now it's just all TV.
It's all stream up on the screen. No, but yeah, I think the other, with YouTube, I think they're, obviously we talked about football there, but their upfront, their brandcast was interesting because they were like, oh, the writer's strike doesn't affect us because our creators create our content, and we don't need them. And so you start thinking about it, you're like, it's really true. It's not the quality content that we were just talking about, but the quantity of content, and your son or whoever, the younger audiences, that's where they consume a big part of their content. And knowing that maybe the big number that they threw out was that they were the biggest streaming platform, the biggest CTV platform, viewership-wise, for the first time ever. I don't know, was it March or April or whatever, with 8%. That was, you're like, wow, look at it's YouTube. I still didn't quite expect that, so soon.
What are people watching?
Yeah, right.
So what percentage of your buy is YouTube then? And what do you actually use it for then?
With YouTube, you kind of do get the digital element, right? You do have the targeting capabilities. You have more measurement availability. So, it's more performant. It performs better for us. And we can measure it better. So, percentage-wise, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15% of our TV buy. Of our, I don't know, screen buy. What do you want to call it?
It's all TV.
It's all TV.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the interesting thing too is being, growing up in TV, inventory in TV, you're buying ad space, right? You're buying a commercial hole in a program. CTV, you're buying people, right? So if a whole bunch of people, Hulu, for example, was very surprised a few months ago. They launched a show on Tupac, and people really still care a lot about Tupac. And it blew up. And all of a sudden they're like, we have a ton of inventory. And because inventory is people, right? So it's funny when clients ask me, well, when is it going to be on? And what show? We're, in linear, you're like, okay, I need a 45-year-old woman with 2 kids. Where would she be watching? And I'm going to buy that channel and that time and that show. On CTV, I'm delivering with data. The ad through the DSP, through the SSP is going to get delivered. If I'm saying I want a 45-year-old woman that's got 2 kids that makes $100K, when she's watching, that ad's going to be delivered to her. Whether she's watching the UFC or watching, Real Housewives. So we're buying a person versus an ad space, which comes with predicaments of its own, which kind of leads me to something we talked about, Netflix. So you were one of the first to jump in at that crazy CPM when Netflix said,
Came down a little bit.
yeah, like 69 to 64. So Netflix is like, we're Netflix and we're having ads, come on, right? We're the coolest. Who wants to be first? You guys jumped in.
We did.
Eyes wide open, I think. And what happened?
Exactly what we expected to happen. Them not having enough inventory.
Again, inventory's people.
Correct. I think they threw out some big numbers for their ad-supported tier, and we kind of knew we weren't gonna get it, and I was okay with it. Obviously really high CPM. So under delivery was almost expected. But I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to look under the hood. I wanted to see what they were doing, and I do think the experience is great. I think that only having 4 minutes of ad time per hour, I think is really unique in this time. So I think there's something there. I mean, they're gonna, what are they, 2 million ad tier subscribers? I mean, that's tiny. They're hoping to get to 5 by the end of the year, and the only way they're getting to 5 is because of the password sharing, restriction or whatever that they put in. And but how do they get from 5 to 25? That's the crazy thing. I do think there's like subscription fatigue going on right now, and I think content is like they're not paying. Everyone's not paying for the same amount of content as they were before. I mean, Netflix kind of started it with the way that they were spending early on, but they do have a huge library of content, and people. You think about there's how many shows have you watched where you're like, what was that on again? Was it on HBO Max? Was that on Apple TV? It's like Netflix for some reason. Like you always remember the Netflix shows, and I'm not sure why, but I think that their interface and the way that their personalization and everything, they've done a really good job there.
The first mover syndrome, right?
Right. Well, they also watched all the other ad guys do it, but they just need the subscribers in that tier, or else it's not going to go anywhere. We're all just here going like, hey, take our money, but
So did you let that money ride, or did you get it back?
We committed to a big number, and we knew they weren't going to fulfill it, and then it's just not spending. So it's essentially getting it back.
Yeah. So after going to the upfronts, what excited you? Anything new or different that excited you? You could say no.
Honestly, I think one of the initiatives that we have is hitting the Hispanic market, and so I do think, for the last 2 years, the Univision or Televisa upfront has been really interesting to me. They're just so massive, and like their audience is so engaged. you just don't have that here. And I mean, here is here, but you don't have that, in the English-speaking networks. And so I thought that was really interesting how the Super Bowl for them is big. That was exciting. I did think the YouTube thing was, was super interesting. Kind of going back to that, but meeting with creators and then sprinkling in NFL, and they're like, oh yeah, AI. Well, we've been doing that forever. Like, we already know who you guys are. We don't have to we don't have to make a big announcement about it. So I think that that was interesting. I mean, having everybody talk about AI when they don't really have an AI plan was always something. And then the other one was like the measurement. It's like, all right, how are we measuring this year? It's like, Nielsen again, I guess. And so, I was expecting more of like, oh, I spot EDO, but they're, you're either saying I'm Nielsen or I'm measurement agnostic, and I will go to anybody or use anybody. I thought, it would have been nice to have, a little bit of evolution there, but I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. What do you see in that space?
The same, right? It's Nielsen's that drug we can't get off of. No one seems to have come up with anything better. It's interesting to me when new players come into the market, we judge them so harshly on their basis. Yet Nielsen's basis is so tiny. It's just what we know, right? And it's hard to, we want something perfect in order to move, but we know we're dealing with something far from perfect, but it's the devil we know, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Then you have Nielsen 1 on the horizon, and then people are excited about that, but I don't know what that's going to do either.
Yeah. So looking ahead, your media plan, striking that balance, 70-30, it sounds like?
Yeah, about that. I mean, it depends on how you count YouTube, I guess.
And with this looming recession, are you cutting any ad budget, or this is a good time for you?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't really know many brands that aren't cutting in some capacity. I think that we're definitely more performance driven right now. I mean, like literally right now. We're going to be launching some new products later in the year that'll force us to kind of go back and think launch budgets and think bigger picture, think NFL. But right now I think it's like batten down the hatches. Like let's figure out what really works for us. Don't go overboard, and and just be cognizant of our spend and performance right now, because it is kind of a shaky time. I think it's the right strategy for now. It's not as fun as a marketer to be doing it this way, but
So no Super Bowl ad for you?
No Super Bowl ad, but you'll see us at NFL a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's during these times, direct response can really, really grow, right? If you can be performance-based and make every ad dollar do, heavy lifting, 5x, or perform, make money. There's a big shift during tough times to performance-based marketing.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm a performance-based marketer at heart, so it's just time to really be smart.
Yeah. I don't know where we are in time. We're over. We've run over.
You can do 2 questions.
We had a dance.
Do
we
2
were gonna
questions.
do.
It's so good. 2 questions.
Stacy, thank you, and Steve. Just a comment, because I know it's a media summit, but I just think when you say it's all TV, I only take some perspective on that, because I think the CTV offers us the opportunity to be much smarter about the ways we develop content and optimize content on the fly. The kind of capabilities we have in CTV just don't exist in linear. So I just think when you've got companies like VidMob who are doing such amazing work, and others now applying AI to the development of content along a customer journey that can be optimized, sequenced, and delivered in real time. I mean, using data in that way is another huge opportunity. Only 2 years ago, Google ran their campaign. 70% of campaign effectiveness was down to the power of creativity. So as much as ad tech for the last 15 years have been obsessed about media targeting and optimization, the content and the power of creativity is largely forgotten.
Yeah.
CTV has that,
Yeah.
and linear doesn't.
No, absolutely. They work together and they inform each other. They both have a home in every campaign. It just, depending on what your campaign's goal is, where that budget's gonna fall. One more question?
I am curious in your comment on Televisa and Univision. So, I mean, since the census of 2020, we know that the Hispanic market has grown immensely. Is your comment based on personal reaction, discovery of that market, or is that a reflection of your company, like, oh, okay, wow, this market we really do pay close attention to it?
Combination, I guess. I think our products, our newer products are really strong for introduction to credit, and so you have, the multi-dual language households that aren't as informed, frankly, and so now that we have products that actually suit that audience, we wanted to go after that audience and really let them know that, hey, this is something that it's free and it's available to you, and this is kind of how you need to grow your credit standing. And our future products are going to be even more focused on it. We're actually going to be the first bureau to have a Spanish language credit report and FICO score in our product, available in the app, and it'll be all for free. And so, this is just, again, the evolution. We've been advertising in that market for about 15 months or so, and it's been the top performing campaigns for us the entire time, literally from day one. So, I think now that we have more products to fulfill that audience, we have more opportunity to do more there. So that's kind of why we're pushing.
Thank you.